Dark Side,
Oh, Cosmic Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that right now. It's a great book. We'll talk about it when... By the way, I got that Funko Pop.
Oh my goodness.
What is that, Hawkeye?
Kate Bishop.
Oh,
Pizza
Kate Bishop.
dog.
Yeah, with the dog.
Beats it down.
Yeah. She can only move diagonally.
She's a bishop. That's clever.
Yeah, it's a funny chess joke for all the brainiacs out there.
Oh, that's a good scary laugh.
Oh yeah, is this Halloween episode?
Oh yeah.
Special episode. Whoa! Welcome to the Off the Shelf podcast. My name is Josh.
I'm Vinny.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Jason.
We got all the boys here
I
today.
know. We got Brandon on the couch.
Yeah.
Or not on the
Guest
couch.
appearance.
Yeah, Brandon's in a rolly chair sitting next to me. We're all very squeezed.
We're all very naked. Greasy.
Yeah, so we've decided for the month of October that we're going to be doing a little Halloween spectacular each week of October, except for the first week, because Crisis on Infinite Earths is scheduled and probably has come out.
Yeah, it will have.
But we're going to start each week for the remaining weeks of October talking about some scary or horror-themed book. And today I decided to start with one of my favorites, Gideon Falls, written by Jeff Lemire, drawn by Andrea Sorrentino. What, Brandon? Well, welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm not too familiar with comic books and stuff. I kind of came here.
Speak up or we beat you.
So I'm not super familiar with comic books. I got into comic books after meeting Vinny, Josh, and Jason. So I'm really here just kind of learn and give hopefully a perspective to someone who doesn't read the books and help fill in some questions that people might have.
Perfect.
I love questions.
Yeah.
I love when everyone asks me questions. I love being overwhelmed with questions.
Vinny, where do babies come from?
That's... Maybe Jeff Lemire will answer that for you.
I think the balls, maybe?
No, that's where the piss is stored.
Oh, wait. I'm going to have to look this up after we record,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, canon. Don't worry about it.
So bring
Don't
us
look it
through
up, it's
this.
canon.
Bring us through this book.
All right.
What do we got?
So, Gideon Falls is a book that... Wow, he pours a nice cup of Joseph while I'm talking.
Nice
That was some
chilly
loud
cup.
drink.
I know.
So I have a little story about Gideon Falls before I even get into it. First, I want to say I love this book. For the longest time, I didn't avoid it. I saw it on the shelf and I was like, I didn't know anything about it. And it looked cool, but I didn't know how much it was. Luckily, it's Image Comics, and usually the first volume... It's okay.
I mean, I did the same
I'll
thing,
just
so I
wait
can't
for you.
really blame him, but
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Brandon, you're going to get beat so hard after this episode.
I had a feeling I would never be invited.
my
back to a
belt's already
podcast.
loosened. Every time you make a mistake, I loosen my belt
Yeah.
one more notch until it's off, and then you get a beating.
How many notches are left?
One.
Guess you'll have to find out.
So, luckily, most volume 1s of Image comic books are only $10, which is a great price because usually volume 1s of a Marvel or DC book are anywhere from $17 to $25.
And that's if, they're not popular at that point in time.
Yeah.
God forbid you want to catch up a month after this shit's coming out. Yeah, have
Oh,
fun
boy.
going for your paycheck.
You try to go on Amazon a year later, it's $30, maybe $70, depending on what it is. You'll never read it.
And then, you say screw it and buy the book, and then you try to find book 2, and it's $200. Because
Yeah.
something really cool happens in that volume.
Of course. So I have a little story. Like I said, I always wanted to read it, but I never did until 2 years ago, before COVID happened. And one weekend, my parents went away, and they were like, watch the dog. So I watched the dog, and I had a little night to myself. I got a pizza. I went to Barnes & Noble, and I saw this. It was $10. I was like, okay, I'll get it. I got home, and I read the whole thing. I just couldn't put it down.
Beans night out.
Beans, big day out, yeah. I just couldn't put it down. It grabbed me by the ankles and wouldn't let me go.
And you were watching your dog the entire time?
Yeah.
How do you read and watch your dog at the same time?
Like a chameleon. I just like
Oh,
my
yeah, your
eyeballs.
eyes separate.
Bro,
Yeah.
Bucky is straight up just a rock. He probably moved twice in
Yeah.
like 3 days that your parents
Literally.
were gone.
So I finished reading the book and I'm like, oh wow, that's spooky. Plus it's like 10 o'clock at night, you know, so it's getting dark.
That's the scariest time of the night.
Of course. It's almost time for me to go to bed because I'm an old man and I'm tired. And
There's
I'm like,
no nightlight.
no nightlight. And
No
I'm like,
mommy to tuck me in.
Exactly.
No warm glass of milk.
exactly.
No
Should've had-
night bed.
You should have had Bucky like swallow a glow stick to be your nightlight.
I'm going to have to edit a picture of Bucky
Yeah.
into this. I'll use the most disgusting looking picture of him.
So every picture.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, no, it's
Poor
true.
Bucky.
So, I go down to my room, which is in the basement. I get all tucked into bed. I'm getting ready to fall asleep. I close my eyes, and all of a sudden I hear loud banging on my door. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm freaked out.
On your bedroom door?
No,
Or- oh,
like
okay.
it sounds like it's coming from my door upstairs.
Yeah.
Like someone's trying to break in. And I'm like, well, if it's like my parents, they would call me or use their keys. Is someone like, why is someone trying to break in my house? So I'm like shitting my pants. And so I grab my baseball bat and I'm ready to like go upstairs and fuck someone up or get murdered. And I charge upstairs and there's nothing there. The lights are all like all the lights are out. It's fully dark. And I'm just like stealthily moving through my house, clutching this baseball bat in the dark, checking each room, and I find nothing. No one's outside. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. But let me try to go back.
You opened the door and you looked, or you just looked through the
Yeah,
window?
no, I opened both my door,
Really?
my front and back door, and no one was there.
You've seen so many horror movies.
Yeah,
would
I was
think
ready to
that
die.
You wouldn't.
I was ready to.
Yeah.
I was ready to be the character in the first 15 minutes of a horror movie that gets murdered. You would be the group of friends who comes in to investigate.
Completely
Yeah.
disregarding, no lights, home alone, noises and nothing's there.
I know. So I go back downstairs. Still, I'm sleeping with the baseball bat at this point, and I hear it again. Shut up. I hear it again, loud banging on my door, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I go upstairs again, nothing's there. I see my dog, he's asleep on the floor. I'm like, this is fucking weird. I'm losing my mind. Plus, I just read this fucking horror cum shot of a book. So, I'm like, losing my mind. I think I don't even know how to describe my mindset, but I run back downstairs. I'm like, okay, maybe I should call the police. Someone's trying to kill me. I'm in my bed, and I hear the banging again, and I run upstairs. Or, well, first I'm like, I sit at the bottom of my basement door with the baseball bat, and I realize the banging's coming from the door in my house that leads down to my downstairs. So I'm like, oh, fuck. They're in the house!
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's time to die. And I grab the bat, I charge upstairs, and I realize that it's my dog who has been hurling his body into my door because he's afraid to sleep alone because my parents aren't home. And that's the story of how I found out my dog has separation anxiety. So that was my experience with this book and the aftermath of reading it.
So what'd you do? You let him into your room? You cuddled him
Oh,
up?
no, I slept upstairs.
Oh.
Yeah, I slept on the couch with him.
Does he usually sleep with your parents or what?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I slept on the couch with him. He was right next to me. I picked him up and I put him next to me, and he looked at me and he jumped down.
Man, you picked up Bucky?
I know. He lets me pick him up now. He's a sweet angel now.
Dude, that dog has quite literally sent someone to the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wait, what?
don't worry about it.
He's like a foot long.
Eat fresh. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about it
You
when
got
the
him at
cameras aren't
Subway.
rolling. So let's actually get into this book. Brandon, are you excited?
I am excited.
You've been quiet.
I've only read one thing by Jeff Lemire for class. It was just the most terrifying short story.
Really?
Yeah.
You read a...
Yeah, I read Trillium.
Oh, I haven't even read that. How
What
was
is it,
it?
Trillium?
Terrifying because I think I'm 90% sure he drew it.
Yes.
Oh.
So, okay.
Oh, so we should talk about that instead.
Yeah, I'll throw this book away.
Just have you host the episode, yeah.
Could you give us a little, a little run through of it? Don't even gotta be super specific. Just give us a little.
Just like
Basic plot.
one sentence describe the
Basic
entire book.
plot. It takes place in the future, and then as they're exploring this alien, trying to contact alien tribes, they're looking for a flower called Trillium.
Okay.
They find a door, and for some reason this door just connects to the past and like to Earth. So now it's like a cross story between explorers exploring a jungle on Earth and these people from space. And somehow the person in the past winds up getting involved. Like the space people try and help stop the space people from taking over the planet, but because Jeff Lemire drew it, there's a lot of disgusting visuals and people dying in some ways.
So awesome.
Yes.
Man,
So
what's this like yeehaw person gonna do against these space folk?
This
Like what?
yeehaw person had dynamite, so
Dude, don't you-
I mean, of anyone, it's gonna be the yeehaw guy that could take him
But I know you got your fancy space gun, but this Winchester here, put down a bicycle.
Yeah.
all right, so let's get into this book. It is written by Jeff Lemire. It's not drawn by him, so you're safe, Brandon. Jeff Lemire has written many things in the past and is still working today. He wrote Sweet Tooth, which he also draws. He wrote Animal Man, Green Arrow. He's written a whole bunch of stuff. He wrote Constantine for a little bit. He writes a whole bunch of stuff for DC. I can't really think of anything he wrote for Marvel off the top of my head. But he also writes a lot of independent and self-made things.
Take us through this book, Vinny.
Alright, so Gideon Falls begins. Now you meet two characters, right? And I'll break both of them down.
Gideon and Falls.
Yes. So the first character you meet is Norton Sinclair. And you don't really know a whole lot about him. You'll learn more as the book goes on. But what?
Are you telling me that we find out about the main character throughout the story?
I know.
Holy shit.
It's like how stories are written.
Nobody's ever done that
No.
before.
So you meet him and he's rummaging through garbage.
Relatable.
Exactly. And he's wearing like a doctor mask, like a hospital mask.
I didn't know he was a raccoon.
Yes. So Norton's digging through garbage and he finds like this wood chip and he's like, yes, for my collection. He's not like crazy. I mean, he is crazy, but he's not like nefarious.
I was also thinking nefarious. It's funny you use that exact. I was literally thinking the exact word.
Yeah, I used a nefarious voice for him.
Nefarious.
Dr. Nefarious. But he's rummaging through garbage. He finds a little wood chip. He puts it in like a mason jar and he takes it home with him. And you see his apartment. And he has like a whole wall of mason jars and samples of garbage that he has found throughout the city. What?
That's kind of mean. Just because it's garbage to you doesn't mean it's garbage to
One man's
him.
trash is another man's treasure.
Come on.
Exactly.
you never
This
know
is
what
his
you do with that
hobby.
splinter.
Exactly. And as you will find, it's not just garbage. There's a meaning behind it.
You know what, Vinny? I look at your wall of Funko Pops and I think, look at all that garbage.
It's not just a boulder.
It's a rock. So,
It's a stick.
but yeah, so he has a whole wall, or like instead of my bookshelves, he has
Yeah.
mason jars of like wood chippings and rusty nails.
And they're all labeled and dated.
They are.
Yeah.
Listen,
They're all
he
labeled
takes
and
woodworking
dated.
really seriously.
Exactly, he's building something. And you find out that he was found at like 7 or 8 years old, living on the street, and he was taken to an orphanage, and he ends up, like, you find out that he has like schizophrenia and a lot of trauma from his past. He doesn't...
Just like little orphan Annie.
Yeah.
When he doesn't take his pills, he sees wood chips everywhere.
But he's really messed up.
Like little orphan Annie.
So Norton's a really messed up guy, and it's almost like he's erased a lot of his past. Like, he doesn't want to think about it. And he goes to see a therapist, Dr. Angela Zhu. I don't know how to say her last name. It's XU, so I imagine it's Zhu. And she's like, she really wants to help him. He used to stay at a mental hospital, but he's gotten better, so they released him because he's not a threat to him or anyone else. And she's like, you're rummaging through garbage, and it's not really like a problem, you know? But it's kind of weird, because you're not like, oh, a nail. You're like, this is part of the prophecy. Like, you're acting really weird about it. And
If you just sort through garbage like a normal person,
yeah,
we'll be fine.
Like, become a garbage man. Don't trespass and like steal shit that looks like nothing. Like, you're just stealing. That has tetanus on it, Norton. You're gonna die. But she's like really caring and wants the best for him. But she's kind of also like at her wit's end with him. Like, she doesn't know what to do anymore. And the next character you meet is Father Wilfred or Fred.
Wilfred.
starring Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
You meet Father Fred, and he is driving into Gideon Falls, which is like this small, like, countryside town. And he's going to be the new priest of the church because, as you will learn, the old priest died. And at first you don't know how, but we'll get into it. Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned this before. Do you know when this book was written?
I want to say like 2017 maybe.
Oh, okay.
It's 2016 or maybe later.
I was just wondering if you ever see the show Gravity Falls?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm wondering if that's like a
2019
reference to this in any way.
Elseworlds.
But that was before. If this came out 2017.
Yeah.
We find out in the next book that this is actually Dipper all grown up.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
It's a crossover. So
Hey, you said he'd come back at the end of the show.
true. So you meet Father Fred. He's moving into Gideon Falls. He's moving into the church, and he's just getting a feel for the town. Now, Father Fred, he has his problems, just like everybody else. You see him drive into town, and he's just drinking and driving.
Addicted to them Flintstones.
Instead of wheels, he just like
Yeah.
sticks his feet at the bottom of the car.
Excuse me, Father Fred Flintstone, will you bless my bowling pin?
Yeah. He drives up to the church, and you meet this guy right here. His name's Joe Reddy. He's like the school bus driver for the town. He doesn't really come up until later, but it's important that I mention him. You also meet, I think her name is Gail or Gabriella Tremblay, and she used to work with Father Tom, who was the previous priest. And she used to like cook and clean for him. She's part of the church, one of the old church women. So she's like, come on, let me cook you something. Let me like, help you out. And he's like, no, it's okay. I could handle it myself. I'm just gonna go lay down. I'm tired and probably drunk. I had a long drive.
He drank a 40 on the way over.
Literally.
I'm
Like, it shows him
drunk or fall down.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
He's literally drinking chugging from a flask as he's driving into town.
Sorry, I just gave myself a leg cramp.
You're falling
In the
apart.
years before Dipper came back, he became either schizophrenic or an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Between.
He's one of them.
Or both.
Both.
And so this woman, Gabriella, she was very close to the original priest, Father Tom. And Fred is like, do you know how he died? Like, no one really told me anything. They just sent me here. And she starts, like, crying because she's like, I saw Father Tom as, like, an actual father. And it was so horrible what happened to him. And then she just goes home, and Fred is like, well, that was kind of odd.
It's like that story in Hellboy. When
Yeah.
the priest comes in and he's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And a bunch of weird stuff happens.
Here's Andrea Sorrentino going insane with some of the art. And you get to see like rusty nails, wood chippings, the mason jars with the dates and everything. And this is him talking to his therapist. The art in this book perfectly describes what's going on in Norton's head. Or what's going on in the physical plane of existence.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one thing when a writer says that a character is schizophrenic or has some sort of affliction like that, but when they can actually show it, it's very interesting. It's very cool.
Exactly.
I was just gonna say the artist does a really good job of really like painting the like narrative that someone has in their own minds, because like everyone like when they're not talking kind of just has a narrative going on in their own head. And I feel like the pictures and everything really personify what it's like following the inside narrative.
Like when you read this book, it really feels like Andrea Sorrentino and Jeff Lemire are the same person, because there's no disconnect with the art or the writing. And that's one of my favorite things about it. So Norton is talking to his therapist, and she's like, I thought you were getting better, Norton, but you're still freaking out. Like, you're on medication, you're still digging through garbage. Like, I don't want to throw you back in the mental hospital because you like being free. You like being your own person. I don't want to do that to you.
As any reasonable person
Exactly.
would.
Like, she's not a bitch. She's not like, I'm going to throw you back in there because you suck. Like, no. She cares for him. There's no romance. She's not trying to bang him. She's just a caring professional therapist.
How thoughtfully worded.
Exactly. She's not a bitch. So she's like, Norton, promise me when on your walk home, don't dig through any garbage, okay? And he's like, I promise.
He's rummaging through her little waste bin. Grabs a paper clip, some pencil shavings.
Exactly. Immediately, he's like, oh, a rubber band. Immediately after his walk home from the therapist office, he sees a nail in the sidewalk, and he's like, I'm not gonna grab it. I don't need it.
I don't need it.
Yeah. And then he's like, I need it. And he grabs it. So then we pick up back in Gideon Falls with Father Fred, and he's laying in bed, and he hears like someone whispering to him. He's like, psst, wake up. Wake up, Brandon. And he rolls over, and he sees the demonic version of Father Tom just crouching in his bed. And he's like, wake up, Father Fred. And then Tom just jumps out of the bed and starts like hauling ass outside. Father Fred, booty ass naked, charges out the door. And he's like, Tom, where are you going? What's going on? You're supposed to be dead.
Man, fuck that. I'm going back to bed.
Yeah, exactly. And
that man is hairless.
Father Fred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He must shave.
Oh, yeah, dude, he's a priest.
Exactly. So Father Fred's like running out. He loses sight of Father Tom. Or demonic Tom, but he does instead see the Black Barn. And it's contrasted with Norton, who has drawn out pictures of the Black Barn. So it's like, what's going on?
It's like the Upside Down.
Yeah! So Father Fred keeps like traversing through the outside, and he ends up seeing the woman Gabrielle from before, and she's been murdered.
Oh, what is that?
I think it's a gardening tool.
No, it looks like a hook.
Yeah, see?
Like a hook hand.
Yeah, it's like a, I don't even know. It's
like a trowel.
Yeah.
What do they call that?
Sure.
What the hell?
It was like a lantern. Like someone broke it and stabbed her with.
Yeah, it looks like it's in her on like the blunt side.
That's inherently foul.
So Norton has drawn pictures of the Black Barn. So it's like, what's going on? It's like the Upside Down.
Yeah.
Then we pick up with Norton and Dr. Zoo. They're on a nice gingerly walk through the park. And the whole time he's eyeballing the garbage cans. He's like, I don't need it. I don't need it. And she's like, stop. What's the deal with the garbage? Just tell me. Okay? And he's like, you wouldn't understand. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it. You're not cool enough, Dr. Zoo. Like, it's not just garbage.
It's a guy thing, okay?
Yeah.
It has purpose. It's meaning.
It's like, it's a piece to something. Like a piece to a puzzle. And she's like, okay, can you, like, explain more? And she's like, I've already told you too much.
Is it a jigsaw?
Is it the Black Barn? He's building it one fraction at a time?
Maybe. You'll just have to wait and see. He ends up...
One broken plank at a time.
Yeah.
He does end up showing her...
splinter at a time.
He does end up showing her a picture.
It's like
of the Black Barn.
Monsters, Inc. When he rebuilds the door one splinter at a time.
Yes.
So is he in Gideon Falls?
He's so
Sully from Monsters Incorporated.
Yeah.
So
that's where Boo is from. Yeah.
Now you don't know where Norton is. Like, he's in a city, but Father Fred does mention that there is like a Gideon Falls city.
Oh, okay.
And they're just in the town.
Because every time you go back to the priest, you say back in Gideon Falls instead.
Yeah, I mean, they don't name the city.
Oh, okay.
But you could say like it's an extension of Gideon Falls. So Father Fred is being interrogated by the police because they think he murdered Gabriella.
You did.
Yeah, and you meet Clara, who is a sheriff, and she's like, why'd you do it? You just came in, you're the priest, people look up to you. This is a very church-going community, and now you're a murderer. And he's like, listen, dog, slow your roll. Like, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Yeah. He was like, I was just butt-ass naked, running around, chasing after the thought-to-be-dead priest who I'm here to replace. I know it doesn't make any sense that that's what would be happening, but it's the truth. And Clara, the sheriff, is like, okay, the story is a little flimsy. But then the deputy is like, no, I totally fucking get it. Like, I bet. I have no doubt this is what's going on. And Clara's like, okay, Deputy Tom or something. I don't remember his name. But they end up not, like, arresting him because they end up explaining that Father Tom's body was never found. What happened was they found his car, his cell phone, and his wallet in the river, but not his body. So they just were like, yeah, he's probably all the way down there. You know, we just never got a scuba team to check out the lake or the river or whatever. But he's dead. He couldn't have survived. He's like his 80-year-old man. You know, got into a car crash. He fucking drowned. And Father Fred's like, yeah, the only thing, he was in my bed last night. Not in like, not in a sexual way, but like, he was looking scary in my bed.
It's not sexual. He was in my bed and fully naked, but
No,
I
he was
fully whispering in my ear, but
yeah, he's like, wake up.
wake up.
Do not get any strange ideas.
we just cuddled, I swear.
And they're like, for that, you're going to jail. No. They do end up putting him in a holding cell, just for the night. And that's when the deputy is like, listen, I'm on your side. We never found the body. And, like, I'm not going to say he's a demon or whatever. I'm just going to say some weird things have been going on in this town for a long time. And Father Fred's like, just lock me up, bro.
I don't want to deal with whatever it is you got.
Exactly.
We don't got time to unpack all that.
So, now back to Norton. Norton goes to his apartment, and it's been ransacked. His shelf is all destroyed. All his samples have been, like, stolen. Or at least they're just not where they should be. And, like, all his papers, his drawings, everything's scattered around. He's like, someone broke in. They stole my scalpel. I'm gonna have to booby-trap this place. Like, he's totally unhinged. And he ends up booby-trapping his whole apartment.
Oh, God.
He's like, I have nails in the floor. I have, like, if someone touches the doorknob, it'll electrocute them. It won't kill them, but, like, it won't feel good. And then later, the therapist shows up. I was like, Norton, I'm here to see. He's like, don't touch anything, because you will. I mean, nothing bad will happen. Just don't touch anything. And she's like, okay.
So what you're telling me is he's not grown-up Dipper. He's Kevin McAllister.
Yes, exactly.
He's an amalgamation of the characters.
Yeah.
So Norton goes to his therapist and is like, someone broke into my apartment. Someone's stealing my stuff. They're on to me. And Dr. Seuss like, I'm throwing your ass back in the asylum, bro. You're losing it. And he's like, I'm not losing it. Like, I know I sound crazy. I know I do. But, like, I promise you, there's something going on. And she's like, I don't know what to believe. Okay.
She's like, that's exactly what you would think.
Exactly.
You were crazy.
Exactly.
Speaking nonsense to me.
She's like, you're making up this, like, fairy tale in your brain to, like, escape from, like, your traumatic life, you know? And he's like, fuck you. I'm never coming back.
I actually am very happy right now.
Exactly.
Do they dip into, like, his backstory at all? Or?
They will in later volumes.
Got it.
So I'm not going to touch up on it now, but in the future we'll probably go into it. So we meet up with Clara and another police officer, and they end up finding Father Tom's body. And it's, like, near the riverbank, and they find him, and he's holding a rusty nail. And Norton is somewhere like, oh, I know he has it. No. But they find a rusty nail, they're like, okay, he is dead. But then one of the cops is like, he's dead, but, like, the way his body is right now, he would have only died, like, an hour ago. Like, his body is still kind of fresh. And the sheriff is like, that doesn't make any sense. Where has he been? And one of the cops is like, Father Fred's bed. Like, so then back with Dr. Zoo, she's on the phone talking to, like, her boss, I guess. And it's like, I don't know what to do about Norton. I don't want to throw him back in the mental hospital. He really needs help, though. And he's talking about, like, this black barn and all this crazy shit. And then she sees it. And not only does she see the black barn, but she sees this horrific man with this grotesque smile right here.
Man, there was a guy who got off the bus earlier in this book who had a really creepy smile.
Yeah, that was Joe Reddy.
Yeah, is it the same guy?
Oh, no.
Oh.
But that guy's important. So, and Dr. Zoo's like, oh, fucking shit, I'm crazy too.
I think if you see something that someone else has described seeing...
Yeah.
Like, your first thought's not going to be, I'm crazy. You're going to be like, they're right.
They're right. Yeah.
Well, it depends. The person that saw it's a schizophrenic.
I
So
guess.
it's
True. And now she's like, do I have to take medication? Oh my God. Like, no. But she is freaking out about it. Sheriff Clara goes to Father Fred and is like, all right, so we did find his body, so we're not going to arrest you because we believe that he's the one that did kill Gabrielle. For your story is for some reason believable now, besides all the demonic and blood and everything. Like, we believe you. You're free to go. We're not going to keep badgering you with all our cop shit. And he's like, well, thank you. Meanwhile, he's trying to write the his sermon for this Sunday. And he's like, I fucking have no idea what to write. Like, there's been a murder in this town, and the old priest is found dead now, even though, like, we thought he was dead, but now he's, like, really dead. Like, I've been here a week, and so far it's not looking good. And you keep seeing him, like, try to write, like, words for his sermon, but he keeps crossing them out. He has writer's block. Here's where, this is all the supplies for Norton as he booby traps his apartment.
I want to go back to the priest for 1 second.
Yeah,
it's kind of an interesting perspective. This book is so serious, by the way.
It is.
And it takes the characters very seriously, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting perspective that people in the town would probably, after a murder and stuff, people would turn to religion, right?
Yeah.
In most cases. So I bet it would be a huge stress for him. Like, what can I say at this point
Exactly.
that could console all these people who are going through such a traumatic thing?
Exactly.
2 days, 2 dead bodies.
Yeah,
It's kind of a rough
right.
thing
Exactly.
Like, that's intense.
And
yeah.
not to, like, I didn't really mention it, but he's kind of losing faith in God. Like, he's still a priest, he still believes, but even, like, he'll say later, like, why would God do this?
Yeah.
You know? So we pick up with Norton, who's booby-trapping his apartment, and they have, like, he has spikes in the floorboards, and, like, this lamp will fall down if someone, like, walks under it. Like, he is all decked out, and the therapist goes over and is like, he grabs a sledgehammer also. She knocks on the door, she's like, let me in. And he's like, okay, but don't touch the doorknob. Don't walk in that spot. Don't, just follow me, be very careful. And she's like, okay, what's gonna happen to me if I walk over there? And he's like, don't worry about it. And she's like, I saw it. I saw what you described. And I think you're making me crazy. Like, working with you is, like, fracturing my brain. And he's like, no. Like
hold on, you're a therapist. You should know that's, like, not how that works.
Exactly. And like you said, Josh, he's like, if we both see it, then it must be real. And she's like, fuck. Yeah, exactly. So we pick up with Father Fred at Sunday Mass. And here's his notes, which are all scribbled out. And
he wrote like 2 lines.
Yeah.
Barely even tried.
He has absolutely nothing
Yeah.
to say. And he's like, and he's just upfront with them. He's like, I have nothing to say. Like, I don't know why God would let such terror plague this village in only a span of a few days. And right now, as a community, such a small community, we need to be there for each other.
Gideon Falls is considered a village?
Yeah, sure.
What, they don't have a town hall?
Okay, they're a town. Yes.
Okay.
And he's just honest with everybody. And after Mass, Joe Reddy, the guy from before, he shows up and he's like, Father, I really appreciated your honesty for this sermon. It's something Father Tom never really gave us. He just gave us what we wanted to hear and not what we should have heard. You should come over to my house for, like, dinner or something. And Father Fred's like, yeah, fuck that, buddy. You're
questionable.
He's like offering him a joint. And Father Fred's like, I'm not smoking a joint with you, bro. Get out of here.
I'm going to go home and get drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God's juice.
My mother told me never to accept drugs from strangers.
Exactly. So Dr. Zoo is, like, horrified, talking about what she saw. The black barn and this horrible laughing man.
With teeth on his lips.
Teeth on his lips. Like, he has no lips.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most...
teeth.
Extra teeth.
Even worse than teeth on his lips.
Yeah.
This is, like, one of the
Baraka from Mortal Kombat.
This is, like, one of the most haunting images from this book. Like, it's so simple, but it really gets the point. Like, if I saw this, I'd shit my pants.
Yeah.
You know? Now, there's a lot of back and forth between Father Fred and... What?
I was just looking at, like, the Venn diagram style panels that are in this page.
The panel layout in this book is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, there's each page is just so interesting to look at. Father Fred, while Norton and Dr. Zoo are talking, Father Fred gets a letter in the mail from this guy named Doc. And he's like, that's kind of peculiar. And the note's pretty much like, we should meet. You know, you're tied to the dead priest. You're tied to the dead woman.
Hey,
like,
I am also a 16-year-old boy.
Oh, no.
So, Father Fred's like, I am not going to meet with that guy. That sounds scary. But Father Fred has also found, like, a bunch of old newspaper clippings of, like, cult leader that murdered a bunch of people, or kids going missing, or disappearing buildings, like crazy things that have happened over the years in this town. And eventually Fred caves and he's like, I'm gonna go find this Doc guy. He gave me his address. No.
Imagine being this guy, like, man, why is this my problem?
Exactly.
Like he's not even from this town.
Exactly.
He's already having a rough life. He's like, why do I have to solve this shit?
Yeah, he just got there. He's like, someone called, like, the mystery gang, please.
Can't someone who's lived here for more than a week deal with their own town's problem?
Someone called the National Guard. So Fred goes to Doc Sutton, who's the guy that sent him the letter, and Doc Sutton is the town crazy. He's the guy that in every horror movie is like, I've been in this town for so long. There's so many crazy things that have happened and no one believes me, even though they're all true. I promise they're all true.
I've seen a woodchuck beat a salmon in checkers.
Problem? Why is it Father Fred's problem?
Well, Doc Sutton is maybe crazy.
Oh, okay.
He's definitely crazy, but he's also right.
And
like
also,
Norton.
like, he just came into the town and then people started dying.
Yes.
Know? So it's like, who's it going to be? Someone who's lived here for, decades and never killed anybody? Or this guy who just walked in?
Exactly.
That's going to be who they're going to look to first.
So Doc Sutton brings him into, like, his back room of, like, crazy newspaper clippings and, like, drawn sketches. And it's like, have you seen the Black Barn? And Fred is like, sadly I have. And Doc Sutton's like, perfect. Because so have I, so have other people.
I gave it a 1-star review on that.
And, of course, Doc Sutton is like, you are very important to all of this. Because there's a war coming. And it's gonna be...
You've been drafted.
You've been drafted.
That's totally queer.
Yeah. Every time.
I know. Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to have to find those pictures again and edit them in this episode. So, Doc Sutton explains the whole history of Gideon Falls and this town. And how, like, a long time ago, there was this crazy cult leader who murdered a bunch of people. And then there was this, some kids went missing. And just a whole bunch of crazy things that have happened. And Father Fred is like...
It's a cross, I get it.
Yes,
the frames make up a cross.
Yes. Made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Doc Sutton also mentions...
Brandon, get in the spot.
Hey, Josh, you heard of that movie.
So Doc Sutton...
I'm Brandon now.
So Doc Sutton mentions that a long time ago, after all these crazy things started happening, a group of people came together. And this group of people were, like, either, like, rich or, like, important people of this small town. And they came together to figure out what the Black Barn is. And they were called the Plowmen. And he just leaves it to that. He's
like Homer?
Oh. Yeah. Deep cut Simpsons reference.
Yeah. You get to see Dr. Zoo, and she's, like, washing her face, freaking out. She sees the Black Barn again. She's like... All right, I'm fully bananas. Like, I'm fully going crazy. I love this image right here, where I don't even know how to describe what's going on in this. This is kind of like her mental state.
All the frames are broken up into 3-dimensional cubes.
Yes, and then the final one explodes. Kind of like her mind is just spiraling until it eventually breaks. Father Fred ends up going to the sheriff, Clara, at her own house. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm here so late. And she's like, oh, it's fine, you want a beer? And he's like, no.
But yes. But no.
He's like, I really want one, but I shouldn't be drinking. But I still...
I got my flask on my head.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm already 6 deep. One more, I can't drive.
Exactly. Meanwhile, he's driving to the sheriff's house.
Yeah.
And he's like, I shouldn't be drinking, but I went to see Doc Sutton today. And I'm learning more about this town, and I'm starting to believe that something's going on. And Clara's like, Doc Sutton is insane. He's the character in every horror movie that's like, don't go to that town, it's haunted. He's that character, Father Fred. Stay away from him.
Meanwhile, she's seeing the same thing that he sees. You know?
They're always portrayed as town crazies, but these are literally the unsung heroes that try to save everyone before they get before they're the first kill in the movie.
Exactly. So you get a little insight on... Yeah, there's a little bonding moment between Clara and Father Fred. You learn that Clara used to have a brother who went, like, missing or died when he was, like, really young. And Father Fred, he used to, like... As a priest, you're not supposed to have sex or, like, do drugs and, like, you know...
Or get drunk.
Or get drunk.
Be cool.
Yeah. You can't be cool. And he did all that. Like, he broke every rule in the Bible. And he has extreme guilt for it.
He tilts his cross a little bit to the left.
Yes, he does. He puts the cross backwards.
That's an extreme T right there.
Oh, yeah. So while they're talking, Clara gets a call from, I guess, the police station, and they're like, okay, Sheriff, we need you. Joe Reddy has shot and killed someone at his farm.
Man, I knew he was evil.
Yeah.
You see that smile on his face? He literally went ear to ear.
And she's like, okay, I'll be right there. And Father Fred's like, what can I do to help? And she's like, go home. Actually, can you drive? I'm hammered right now. And he's like, so am I! So they drive down there to the farm. And Dr. Zoo, you get to see more of Dr. Zoo and Norton talking about the Black Barn while Clara and Father Fred go to Joe Reddy's house. They get to Joe Reddy's house. They find his wife. You meet his wife earlier. She's like really almost comatose. Like she's very like, yeah... Like, there's nothing really to her. Not because she's written badly, just that's how she's supposed to be written, I guess. But you see her, and she ends up getting killed in this book. Joe Reddy, her husband, murders her.
Yeah, you know, imagine if your husband's Joe Reddy. I imagine you're probably not too happy and spunky.
They end up going into his house, and they find a cop strung up and murdered, and he's just sitting there like, Father Fred, I've been waiting for you. He said you'd come over for dinner. It's time to chow down. And Father Fred's like, holy fucking God.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. There's a moment in this book where Father Fred's like, Jesus Christ! Oh, wait. Never mind. I can't say that. Clara is like, Father Fred, wait outside. I'm going to go shoot Joe. And Father Fred's like, okay, I guess I'll wait outside.
All right.
He ends up barging into the house after he hears a few gunshots. Clara ends up getting fucking beaten with the sledgehammer that Joe Reddy's holding.
How do you lose that lead on gun to hammer, you know?
Yeah. And Joe Reddy ends up, like, hauling ass out of his house. Clara's chasing him, just, like, shooting the gun. Father Fred is, like, also in pursuit. I love that, like, it's almost like Clara has maybe this, like, maybe she's also an alcoholic, like a functioning alcoholic. Because, like, she's sprinting and shit, and she's like, before, I can't drive, you know, but she's in total cop mode now.
Yeah, the adrenaline sobers you up, you know?
And they end up, like, running into the cornfield where there's, like, this big emptiness, where it's almost like a barn would be. Like, just flattened out right there.
I wonder what belongs there.
I know, right?
Just a very square alien ship. Maybe a crop circle there.
Really big corn.
Crop square, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, back with Dr. Zoo and Norton, they get kind of more into, this is where you learn about Norton's past a little bit, how whoever his parents were just left him on the streets when he was younger, and he's tried to kill himself before, and he has a lot of problems, he takes a lot of medication, and he knows he's kind of crazy. You know, he's like, I know collecting garbage isn't normal. And I know, like, I don't see this as a nail. I see it as a puzzle to something bigger. I believe, like, everything I'm finding are pieces to this black barn. I don't know why I'm the only one that could see it. Well, now you can too. But, like, I don't know why we're the only people that could see it. We have to be connected in some way. And Dr. Zoo's like,
can I go back?
yeah, she's like, can I go? Can I be in another book? I don't want to be in this. Can I be in that Trillium or whatever that book Jeff Lemire wrote? One thing leads to another, and eventually Dr. Zoo is like, have you ever been, like, hypnotized before? Norton's like, no.
She's like, how do you know?
How do you know? So Clara and they kill Joe Reddy, I should mention.
You're just casual.
Yeah. Oh no, he gets away actually. Apologies. He gets away, and Clara and Father Fred go to Doc Sutton. And
is he a real doctor?
He used to be.
Okay.
Like a surgical doctor, not like a pediatrician or something.
Yeah.
And they go there.
Jab at all pediatricians.
Yeah, sorry. Like they're real doctors too.
Screw you, pediatrician.
I wouldn't trust Dr. Sutton with my children, though.
No, you should not. So, in the like fight with Joe Reddy, Joe stabs Father Fred's hand, so he needs stitches. So they go to Doc Sutton for stitches, and to talk about the whole thing because they believe Joe Reddy is possessed.
Like stigmata.
Yeah. So they go to Doc Sutton, and Clara is like, "This is such bullshit, bro. Like, you have been haunted by this black barn for your entire life. Like, to the point where this is all you care about. This is all you think about. Like, I hate you. I hate you, and I hate that you're my dad."
Oh.
And you find out that Clara is Doc Sutton's daughter. And it's like, ever since my brother disappeared, you shut off, you stopped caring about me, you only cared about this stupid barn. Like, it's all bullshit. You're crazy. The Plowmen, this group of, like, this underground society. You were an architectural, like, just this club. Like, you didn't fight demons or whatever. You're just old and dumb. And she just completely unloads on him.
So that adds another layer to it, too. If she's seeing the black barn, then it's like she's like her dad.
Yeah. And, like, she hasn't seen it yet.
Oh, I thought...
Not yet.
Okay.
Just Father Fred... And she's even like, have you seen the black barn for yourself, Dad? And he's like, well, no, but I know someone who has. And she's like, oh my God. Like, I don't even know. Like, it was stupid to come here. Meanwhile, I was trying to think of how to explain this part to you guys. This is his mind.
Oh, okay.
He's under hypnosis, trying to get to, like, the bottom of, like, his trauma and the black barn and what it all means. And it's just some pretty pages for Andrea Sorrentino to draw. And eventually, in his mind, he sees a door, seemingly to the black barn.
A black door?
No, it's red.
Oh.
I see a red door.
So, back to Father Fred and Doc Sutton and Clara. They hear gunshots. Joe Reddy is doing some fuck shit somewhere. And they end up running outside, and Clara, like, runs out before Father Fred, and when he gets outside, this is what he sees. He sees the black barn with a red door. Clara and Joe Reddy he's ready. He's right there, you know, and he, like, bonks Clara on the head, takes her into the barn. And Father Fred is like, oh shit, I guess I'm going to the barn. And he just sprints right into it. And while he's in there, there's some of my favorite visuals in any book ever, right? This is just his mind fucking exploding from, like, what's in the barn. Almost like it's not meant for human eyes. And it's just full pages of crazy, like, hallucinations of what is in the barn. You get to see this giant machine right here. And you don't know what it is yet, but Father Fred sees it and he's like, what the fuck is that? You'll learn as the series goes on what it is, but I'm not going to touch on it right now. I'll save it for a future episode. You get a little bit of, like, his past during this hallucination, where you see he was sleeping with this woman who I think was married, and then she died, and he feels a lot of guilt for it. One of my favorite images, where is it? It's somewhere. It's right here. So one of my and I was talking to you about it in the car, where during this hallucination, it's almost like a rubber band, like how you stretch a rubber band. You see Father Fred just being, like, stretched, and then he's, like, falling through the cosmos, and he sees Jesus Christ just crucified, and Jesus is like, you've let me down.
Isn't that how the Fantastic Four got their powers?
Yes.
Yeah. Jesus gave them to him.
Yeah.
And Father Fred is like, where am I? And Jesus is like, you're in the Black Barn. Where the fuck do you think you are? That's literally what he says.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And Father Fred's like, you're...
That's what it says.
Yeah. You get to see... It's just a complete overload.
It's very visual. So
it's extremely visual. And Joe Reddy is seen as this giant head. Just like, Father Fred, I'm evil.
And I'm Superman's dad.
Hello.
Yeah, and so Father Fred snaps out of it. As Joe Reddy is there, he's back in the physical plane. And Joe Reddy just starts beating the shit out of him. Father Fred picks up a gun, blam, shoots Joe. And is like, well, I've never killed anyone before.
Your mom.
I can add that to the list of guilt. Claro is like, she was pretty fucked up. I think she was also shot. So Father Fred grabs her, takes her back to Doc Sutton, who stitches her up, and they bring her to the hospital. Meanwhile, Norton and Dr. Zoo start rummaging through garbage together. And, like, they're walking through the town, and Norton is like, this is a good spot. And they start rummaging, and they find a bunch of pieces of wood. And Norton places them down on the ground, almost like in the shape of a door. And Dr. Zoo is like, well, what do we do now? And Norton's like, well, there's only one way to get to the bottom of the Black Barn. We gotta build it. Destroy!
So I was right.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And that's where this volume ends.
Huh.
They dug through trash for hours just to get enough to build like a door frame. Now he's like, great. Now we got to build the whole barn.
Build it.
Dude,
Also,
why doesn't he just go to Home Depot and
I know,
skip
right?
like 100 steps?
Because those
get
aren't
some-
pieces of the Black Barn.
Just go to a regular barn with a can of paint. It's like the same
It
thing.
doesn't work like that, Brandon. And I should also mention, I mentioned this before, but Norton always wears that mask on his face. And
COVID.
you see, this came out before COVID, and I read it before COVID, and I was like, that's an interesting look. No, it's not. It's actually a real inconvenience. But at the end, he's like, we need to build the barn, and he takes the mask off, and you don't see his face. I'll give you a little nugget of what's wrong with his face. He has a huge scar on his mouth, and they go into it much later. But that's all I'll say for right now.
He doesn't wear it because he's always rummaging through nasty trash.
He wears it because he doesn't want to look like a monster.
Got it.
He wants to be average while rummaging through trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you do see, like, the last thing you see on the last page is the city is also Gideon Falls. So the town and the city.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Gideon Falls.
Yeah.
So it's like an extension of the town. That's all I'll say for Volume 1. I definitely plan to go into Volume 2, and there's 6 volumes.
Yeah.
So it's quite the sprawling story. You can look through this, Brandon.
I think I own the full 6.
You do. You got the big hardcover, the sexy edition.
You haven't read it?
I have cracked open the first book to page 2, and then I stopped reading because I'm illiterate. But
No, I know how it goes, yeah. So something cool I noticed about this book is that it's all in these muted colors.
Yeah.
Except for the color red, which is like vibrant, bright red.
It's used to like highlight a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
I was looking at a panel, and I think it was when Joe Reddy was like sprinting into the cornfield, and it like circled where the it just shows like an aerial shot of like the entire field. It circles where they are instead of just following the people.
Yeah.
The art, like, the artist really wants you to see certain things, so he'll indicate what's the most important thing on the page.
And you know
It's
what?
like a YouTube thumbnail.
Yeah.
And you know what? That could be helpful because sometimes
Yeah.
they'll throw shit in there and you don't know what is important, so you might skip over because this is just some nonsense.
It's interesting. There are some times where it'll block out a certain part of the picture, which is what you're saying. But it'll be like that alone could have been the frame, but you see the entire picture.
Yes.
So your eyes are still drawn to that part, but you still get to see the entire environment, which is cool.
Like,
I like that.
yeah, like right here with the sledgehammer.
I was thinking, that, and there was a part when they were in the car, where it's like you see the entire forest in the road,
But there's like the
but
rectangle.
there's still that red rectangle cutting it out.
Very cool.
It's very neat.
Like, every time I see Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino teamed up, I know it's going to be an intense book. They worked on Green Arrow together. It's the most intense Green Arrow book I've ever read. I'm like, any moment Father Fred's going to show up and there's going to be a black barn. It never shows up, but there's some crazy shit in that book also.
Father Fred's actually the priest from Daredevil.
Yeah. But, like, I read this all in one sitting for the first time, and I was immediately like, I have to read the whole thing. So, after my horror story with my dog, I went to bed, I woke up the next day, and I went to Barnes & Noble and got Volume 2. They did not have Volume 3, so I had to get it from, like, Amazon or something. But...
You ever read Jack Reacher?
No.
I've never read it, but my grandfather has. And he told me about it.
Doesn't they have a TV show?
It does.
I have seen a small amount of the TV show.
Yeah, me too. I started watching it, and, like, the first episode, I think I only watched the first one. It's pretty faithful to the book, which is cool.
Have you seen the movie?
No. With Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be like 7 feet tall, so seeing Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher is kind of...
I get he's a short guy, but, you know, he pulls off certain roles.
Yeah, he does.
I would like to hope that the movie was close to this, like, close to the book, because, you know, I really like when things do that.
Yeah. It's always hard for me watching a movie based on a book, because... books are always so much longer than an hour and a half, so it's like you can't fit everything in there. So I think it works better as a TV show.
I don't know. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this. I feel like with books, the reason why they're so long, and you know, this is really kind of a simplification, but a lot of the pages are kind of describing a character, describing a setting, or describing this, that, the other thing. And with a movie or comic or so on and so forth, you're already given the setting and the image to see already.
Like,
so you don't have to explain it. You don't have to go through it like
10 pages of describing someone is... You just see the actor.
Right, like you can't get into someone's brain when you know, their thought, their internal monologue when you're watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It goes back and forth, like you just said. Like you can never really get a good mental narrative going in a movie. Then again, in a movie you can cut out a lot of filler, I guess you can call it.
Well, unless you're like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where you cram in a full season, or like Percy Jackson.
Oh man, that movie made me so mad, man.
Dude, fuck
that was like the first book I read all the way through.
Me too.
So when I saw the
Sixth grade.
I watched the movie, and then after it came out, my dad read them to me, you know, like at night. And I was like, whoa, none of this happened in the movie.
Bro, I want your dad to read to me.
But
at night,
I'll call him up
like Father Tom in my bed, crouched.
I have bad memories of that book, because like when we were reading in 6th grade, we were in the middle of a chapter, and I asked the teacher if I go to the bathroom. She said no, so I had to piss myself in class. She wouldn't let me leave.
That's foul.
It was Miss Swift.
That's awful.
Oh, that explains it. Probably shouldn't say her name, but whatever. It's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But to get back to my original point, the whole storyline with the pastor is very reminiscent of Jack Reacher in the way that he kind of floats into this new town, and then all of a sudden everyone's like at his throat.
Yeah.
They're like, you murdered this guy, so, you know, we got to take you to jail. And he's trying to figure out all the town's problems,
like,
even though he just got there.
I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Would you guys read this yourself?
I would, yeah.
Yeah?
Well,
you have it.
Yeah. You could, yeah.
Why don't you tell your dad to read to Brandon?
Dude, that would be great. Brandon will love it.
I would love nothing more than him reading Gideon Falls to me.
So what would you guys rate this book? Or Vinny's telling?
I would rate it a Kevin Levin out of Ben 10.
Nice. It's just
That's our rating system, Brandon, where we just take names that rhyme with numbers. And so like
Kevin Levin is usually like the top, unless it's really
it's
really
not
good.
Like we've given every single book we've covered that rating. Hey.
Yeah, some get a K8.
Real original.
Devin 7.
Devin 7. We can't think of one for like 1.
Done 1. We did.
Oh,
we went through them all.
Yeah.
Let's not do it again because we've done it so many times. So what would you give it? Just
Klein 9.
Klein 9.
My friends.
What would you give it, Jason?
I would give it. I'm just gonna say normal numbers. I give it a 10.
How boring.
What?
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
You're right. I give it a Kevin 11 out of.
Perfect.
I would too. I think the art is phenomenal.
I thought I almost had to fire you, Jason. I got real scared.
Dude, I was almost recasted.
Yeah. We've been friends for like 7 years. It would have broke my heart.
You got to do a crisis before we can get rid of him.
Brian,
but identity crisis.
Brian 9. Yeah. Good enough.
Close. It's a name.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Off the Shelf podcast. It was a very spooky, special episode.
Yeah, happy Halloween soon.
All our listeners.
What? Speak up.
I said we're all very thankful for all our listeners.
We are.
Thank you guys for having me.
We love
You're never
you,
coming
Brandon.
back.
Did you have a fun time, Brandon?
Yeah, I did, because I like hearing about like the stories and stuff. Just because I haven't read them because I'm illiterate doesn't mean I don't like what's in them.
Yeah, stay tuned for next time where we cover more Halloween themed books.
Yeah,
or scary themed books. Horror.
You want to plug your TikTok?
Yeah, I have a TikTok, Being Off the Shelf. I come out with videos like almost every day, but sometimes it's like not every day. I talk about comics and comic related things like movies and TV shows. So definitely give me a follow. Check me out. Or not. It's okay.
Join us next time. We're going to be putting up a poll in this episode on whether or not we should kill Brandon. So vote on that, and you'll find out the result next time.